Hey guys, I'm Fuller,
I'm Jonah.
and this is Off the Line. Today we're going to talk about University of Louisville. Their search for a coach has finally come to an end. Jump on over to the Premier League. Gonna go talk about Christian Pulisic's potential move to a couple big teams. Then we're going to wrap it up with just some highlights of the season, some things we like, best goals, best moments, that kind of thing. So, University of Louisville, 2 weeks ago, Ken Lola, the longtime coach there since 2006, announced that he would be moving on. He hasn't really announced where he's going yet. The big name attached to it was Akron's head coach, and his name escapes me right now, but Akron is pretty much the dominant college program in America. They kind of seem to churn out MLS players like it's nothing. And he turned Juvel down. They didn't really reveal why he did. He just didn't come. I don't know if that has something to do with the athletics department. I don't know if just the cloud hanging over Juvel is scaring people away.
Right.
That's basically the only way I can put it. So they turned to John Michael Hayden. I've actually met him once or twice through a friend of mine. He seems like a very nice guy. Just looking back on his career, he played at Trinity High School, so he's very much a Louisville guy. He went to IU and played under Jerry Yeagley, who is the most successful college soccer coach of all time, so not a bad pedigree there. Bounced around some USL and MLS sides for a couple years before getting into his coaching career. And he spent the last 3 years working at U of L under former head coach Ken Lola. So he's very much someone who's familiar with the program, familiar with the city, and he does have that pedigree and that level. He's played in the MLS. He's played for the best coach in soccer, in American college soccer. So I'm not really worried about it, especially when you look at U of L's team. I think they only graduated 2 seniors this year. So I'm very excited for next season. Building off the ACC championship, I think it's a great hire. I don't even necessarily think it's a hire that they're waiting until someone better comes along. I think they're very ready to let Hayden take control of this team.
I think it's a smart move from their part. You pretty much summed up his resume pretty well, so I'm not going to just regurgitate any of that. But I think for all the reasons you said, it makes sense, especially with his knowledge of not only soccer within Louisville, but youth soccer within Louisville, having been a product of youth soccer in Louisville. I think that's another tie that makes it kind of cool, kind of interesting, and definitely the fact that he's already been around for U of L's success.
Absolutely.
Leading up to this point. So yeah, it makes sense.
Cool. So now moving along to the Premier League, we've been through 2 match days now, Boxing Day and today. So there's been a couple big results definitely to talk about.
The table looks a little different.
Definitely. I think the big match, well, first of all, the Premier League kind of screwed us on Boxing Day. Every Big Six team played like a crappy team. Didn't make for good. There were no big matchups. I mean, who was it? Leicester? Leicester beat City. That was crazy. That was cool. City were on a little bit of a losing streak. But I just feel like, Boxing Day, like there'd be bigger matches and stuff. But I think the big match this week was Arsenal-Liverpool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Arsenal, granted they'd lost 3 out of their last 4 games before, but Arsenal have kind of had this energy to them all season where they just seem like they could beat anybody on their day. And they open up goal in the 10th minute from Maitland-Niles. I thought it was on from that point, and apparently Bobby Firmino thought it was on too, because 5-1, 89 or 80 minutes later. So very, very crazy week.
It was a big game for Firmino too. I still think he's hugely important to the team, but you've seen his stats kind of drop off. I think that's because we've almost seen Mo Salah being played as he's playing so far inside, he's almost a second striker.
Absolutely.
And that's pushing Firmino even further back into the midfield, and he was already playing pretty deep last season. So I think that's pretty much what's causing his drop in form, but it was great to see him go out. I think he had 2 goals, didn't he?
3. Yeah,
3. Yeah, so it's great to see him go out, perform like that, and kind of silence the people that are questioning where his stats have gone this season.
Well, now, Liverpool are 6 points, 7 points clear of the next team. They're 3 games up. It's going to take a monumental. Everyone's going to have to work together to catch Liverpool. When City won last year, there were people who were okay with City winning the title. Everyone but Liverpool wants Liverpool to lose the title. I have not seen a single person on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube say, well, you know what? I don't think it'd be that bad to see. No one wants Liverpool to win. And I'm still not dead set on them winning the league. I still think that's 3 games. That's 3 losses against Big Six teams, but they've only let 8 goals in. 8 goals out of 19.
I just don't see where the losses.
It's scary.
Come from.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they have. I think they play City next week.
Yes, I did see that.
It's going to be a spicy, spicy game. I don't want to call that a title decider, but that very much could be a title decider.
Absolutely.
Right there. If City don't come away
especially
with
with Spurs dropping points, that could definitely be that definitely will be a huge mark in the season.
So
game.
Speaking of Spurs, who they play midweek?
Mid. I don't remember who they played.
They had a very tough loss yesterday, or was that today?
They lost today to Wolves.
Wolves 3-1. I mean, Harry Kane opens the scoring up, and they're at Wembley too. Most people do not come back from a Harry Kane goal at Wembley. So very big shout out to Wolves. Wembley is just hard to go into and get a result. But it kind of just deflated all of Spurs' momentum to this point. I mean, they very silently made it to second place.
Right.
And then once you're in second place, everyone's looking at you, seeing what you're going to do. Drop the ball 3-1 to Wolves. I mean, that's got to hurt. That's got to hurt Pochettino, too. We talked about it last week. He's been trying to build this project and do a championship team, and just come out and drop the ball like that against. Wolves are not a bad team. Wolves are a very good team, but you should not be losing 3-1 at home to them.
Definitely. I think it does speak immensely towards Pochettino, just because of the lack of transfer activity they had this summer. They didn't make any moves at all, so it really gave Poch. Some would say it was a handicap, but it really gave him a chance to highlight his coaching abilities by showing what he can do with an exact group of players without anybody coming in or out. What he can do, and at the beginning of the season, it looked like it was working great. Lucas Moura was basically like a new signing.
Absolutely, he was on fire.
Son took a little bit to catch on, but then once he finally hit, he was on fire as well. So it looked like it was all going in the right direction. But seeing them falter so quickly after getting to where they were kind of makes me wonder where that leaves the Spurs project moving forward.
Absolutely. Going on from that, Ole Solskjaer, third win, 3 games. 12 goals in 3 games. Do you think this United team is turning the corner? Do you think it's still a new manager bounce? Or do you think that, we talked about it this week, do you think it's United players actually just playing for the first time?
I think that they're definitely turning the corner, but I think that that's them just competing as a squad. I still think it's still too early to call
Absolutely.
The inner workings, the board, the Glazers, where United stands as a club. But I think that they're definitely turning a corner in terms of the way that they want to play their football, and the way that their players are allowed to express themselves, which can only be for the better.
Yeah. Do you see guys like Pogba, for example? 14 games this year under Mourinho. Pogba's got, I think he had 3 goals, 4 assists. 3 games, he has 4 goals, 3 assists. One of the big, criticisms, not a criticism you've levied against Pogba, but you've said you desire to see him play like he did at Juventus.
Right.
Do you think he's starting to show that little bit of flair and streak that he had in Turin? Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have not seen a Pogba like this since Juventus.
Right.
He's getting into space. He's going up for headers. One of the things the announcers talked about today is the opening goal. He just happened to be on the 6-yard box. And I don't remember who was the announcer. He said, this is Mourinho. You have to ask the question, is Pogba even going to be on that 6-yard box?
Right.
And I think it just kind of speaks to what Solskjaer is doing. He's telling these players, get forward, get into space, try to get it on the end of that pass.
Get to where you're
players
comfortable.
one-on-one.
Right.
Exactly. And I think you see players like Martial and Rashford, they're not afraid to take people on now. They're not afraid of losing the ball. That's something that Jose Mourinho is very much like, if you lose the ball, you're not seeing the field. That's why he has his wingers track back. It's very exciting to watch.
Yeah.
Watching players play with the freedom to mess up.
Right.
Without feeling like they're going to be benched for a week.
Or get locked in the dungeon for a year like Luke Shaw.
Which is crazy. Luke Shaw had a great season under Mourinho this year. Easily our best defensive player. And he's still great going forward under Solskjaer. No disrespect. I love
Right.
Luke Shaw. I think he's easily been a 180, especially after those pictures came out of him while the World Cup was going on, just ripping a heater on the beaches of Ibiza, drunk as shit. Sorry for language.
I don't think it's feasible to expect United to play this well for the rest of the season.
Absolutely.
But if they're gonna be allowed to play in this sort of way, they're definitely turning a corner. I definitely see them being able to compete for a Champions League spot now, which I definitely don't think they were in the position to before they fired Mourinho.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. We both picked PSG to pretty much walk over United in their Champions League draw. Now that United are at least playing with a little bit of up-tempo and flair, a little bit of style, does that change your pick at all? Do you think PSG is going to be able to just walk into Old Trafford and get a result, or do you think it's going to be a spicy little tie?
It definitely makes the game, as if it wasn't already watchable, much more watchable. But I mean, PSG is still the team that scored more goals than any other team in the group stage in the Champions League.
Very true.
I still think it's a matchup that favors PSG very well. But PSG have defensive questions of themselves, and so if we're going to see Pogba playing like this, if we're going to see Marcus Rashford shredding people like this, then that doesn't mean United. It might just end up being a shootout. We could see 3-4, 3-5 scoreline over the two legs. So it'll be interesting to see. I still think PSG edges it though.
So with Arsenal dropping points this week again, Chelsea won. So Chelsea are now in fourth place. Do you see a looming Chelsea United battle for fourth place? And are we now discounting Arsenal from making top four?
Yeah, no, I'm going to shoot that question back your way because I feel like it wasn't even 3 or 4 weeks ago you were saying Arsenal,
yeah, no,
like
could be a title challenger, and it seems like from that when I said that, everything's like since then has just been bad
right
for Arsenal FC, and I still stand by me saying that because up to that point, what team was scoring like Arsenal really
Right.
besides Liverpool and City? Their defending was fine, and they were scoring enough goals to mask any defensive issues, which I think is now they're getting caught out and they can't score those goals. But yeah, I don't know what Uni's going to do.
I still think he's got them moving in a really solid direction. I just still think we're seeing problems of the squad that was left by Wenger. We're seeing him not start Ozil all the time, but when he does start, he has the captain's armband.
Yeah, or he gets drawn off
and
after
then he
45.
gets drawn out at halftime. I believe one of the times he got taken out at halftime, he was the captain, and then he got taken out at halftime.
Absolutely.
I honestly think Ozil's got to go. I think he's a fantastic player, but I just don't think he's gonna thrive there.
No.
But we're seeing those sort of issues come to the fray. But I don't think Arsenal should be discounted out of the top four race just because, especially because we're seeing Chelsea is playing really erratically, still haven't found a striker. Giroud played serviceably today, but then he walked off injured, rolled his ankle with 10 minutes left. And now we're seeing Spurs really get the wobble. So I honestly think the top four and maybe even the top third places it's like a wide open race right now.
Absolutely.
So I personally, I know it's sitting on the fence isn't interesting.
Yeah.
But I just think it's the points gap. I just think it's far too early to call that.
Okay. Well, speaking of Chelsea, they're in the news for another reason this week. They submitted about 50 million euros for Christian Pulisic. Supposedly, this is all according to German newspaper Bild, but that was kind of a team we talked about a few weeks ago in reference to, if Pulisic does leave Dortmund, where does he go? I think Chelsea's a great fit for him in theory, but like we've talked about earlier, is Chelsea willing to spend that money? Because the papers can write anything and everything, and sometimes when there's smoke, there's fire. But I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's a bad fit. Because they do need a right winger. How old's William? 29 now?
Yeah.
William's not getting any younger.
Neither is Pedro.
Yeah, and Pulisic is 22 years old. be a great fit, I guess, in theory. But money-wise, I mean, do you think Chelsea make the move?
They splashed. They're like literally the current world record holders for a goalkeeper, so they spent an immense amount of money on Kepa. But Kepa signing aside, they haven't shown me anything transfer market wise since like 2015, 2016 that they're willing to drop the kind of change that Dortmund wants for him. But like I said, we just blew like 80 million, I think, US dollars on Kepa, which is just an absurd amount of money.
Yeah.
I do think you're right when you said that Pulisic is a great fit currently for Chelsea. I think that Maurizio Sarri and Pulisic would be a great kind of marriage. I think that the style that Sarri plays is very much catered towards players like Christian Pulisic. The thing that just kind of worries me about that is at Chelsea, managers never stay very long.
Yeah.
And when you look at the managers that we've brought in, our past managers were Antonio Conte and Jose Mourinho, both of whom are like extremely defensive-minded managers. So when they hired in Sarri, they kind of showed that they were moving towards a more attacking system and an attacking style. But I would be concerned to see Pulisic play in a system that doesn't give you the kind of freedom that Dortmund has given him, and that Sarri has given Chelsea since he's taken over. So system-wise, I think he would fit. I don't know how many minutes he would get, but I just don't think money-wise Chelsea would be, unless they can talk the price down.
So the other three teams, I guess, ranked in order of like most likely to least likely. Bayern Munich number 2, but it's another money issue for Bayern Munich. We've never really seen Bayern Munich spend that money on a player. I mean, let alone a German player.
Right.
But we've never seen him spend that type of money. It'd be cool to see him go there. You know, they are losing Ian Robben and Franck Ribéry. They're pretty much their two iconic wingers.
Kingsley Coman is
Serge
forever
Gnabry,
injured.
yeah.
So there'd be playing time for him at Bayern. I think it's just a huge money issue again, like you said. He's also been linked with Liverpool. Liverpool's the only team that I could see spending that kind of cheddar on a player.
But there's no play
in
time.
Their current, exactly.
I don't find it better
state.
than
But-
Salah or Mane.
But I don't think he would get into their squad either. So
No.
while Liverpool's the only one I would find likely enough to spend the price tag, I think that that's the least likely team to be interested in him.
Well, what's weird is, I mean, we're talking the two biggest concerns for him are playing time and money. And there's one team that can offer both of those things that just really does not seem interested, and it's Manchester United. Jose Mourinho this summer, I mean, his main goal was to get a right winger, and he didn't because none of the ones he wanted were available. They've got money to spend, and Pulisic would be competing for Jesse Lingard for a spot. But, you know, I don't know, with a new manager coming in next summer, things could change, I guess. I don't know. I still don't know if Solskjaer or the board will be allowed to put any money out in January. So that remains to be seen.
True.
I guess we can just wrap it up with just some like good year for soccer. What was your favorite goal?
My favorite goal, it wasn't the most fantastical goal, but I think my favorite goal was watching Gareth Bale yam one from like 35, 40 yards out and watching Karius try to punch it and knock it right back into his top corner.
Dude, that was the nail in the coffin for Liverpool.
Absolutely.
Oh my God, that was great.
Honorable mention to Toni Kroos's free kick against Sweden in the World Cup. That angle was incredible, but I still think Gareth Bale's goal, just to have the confidence to yam one from that deep on that stage in a Champions League final, and then just to watch Karius completely capitulate for, I think that was like the second time. I think he had already given away the Benzema goal at that point. But yeah, that was.
I think mine, Ronaldo, Juventus. I mean, that was just sublime. But that's on a tie with Gareth Bale's goal against Liverpool, the bicycle kick. Phenomenal goals.
Similar goals.
And then I would say Ronaldo's free kick against Spain in the World Cup for his hat trick. That was so hard.
That was the most Ronaldo like thing.
Yeah, dude. That game, great kickoff for the World Cup. I mean, that was the second game behind like Russia and Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
No, dude, dude. That game was so good. Moment of the year?
Moment of the year. Moment of the year. For me, it's probably watching Atlanta United win a final in Atlanta in Mercedes-Benz, and just kind of seeing that the project that's already kind of the standard bearer for MLS kind of put the finishing touch on why they're the standard bearer. Seeing all of that kind of come together was really cool. So that'd probably be my moment of the year.
I think my moment of the year, Louisville City, back-to-back titles. It's just great. We finally have pro soccer in our city, and not only that, we have great pro soccer in our city.
Right.
And on top of that, watching Didier Drogba cry and lose, like, phenomenal. Great. I loved it. Anything else you want to add?
No, I just think it was. There's reason to be optimistic going into 2019 as an American soccer fan.
Absolutely.
McKinney's continuing to make progress. Tyler Adams got his big move. As long as Zach Steffen can get some international caps by the summer, he'll get his move in the summer. And then you're seeing Josh Sargent really come on strong. You're seeing Timothy Weah become more of a known quantity in Europe. So there's a lot to be excited about going into 2019. So 2018 wasn't all for naught, even though we weren't in the World Cup and we played a bunch of pointless friendlies and got smashed in almost all of them.
Yeah, well, I think that wraps things up for this episode. I'm Fuller.
I'm Jonah.
We'll see you all in 2019.